Hello, everyone, and welcome to GoLeopards.com. I'm Matt Fine, along with head coach Joe Kinney. For the baseball season, it is cold out. It's been a real tough winter, but we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel as we talk about today your recruiting class, and also maybe look back at the fall a little bit, look ahead to the spring. So let's start off with that. Talk about your fall season a little bit. How did things work out with your team, and what kind of things did you learn about your players as you were getting through last fall and that off season that you have?
First off, Matt, thanks for having me, and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Fall is always a great opportunity to, one, learn about your new players that you have coming in, so your current freshmen. Learn about players that were in a role as an underclassman that maybe they didn't get a chance to play a lot because of upperclassmen, and see what they can do as they're given more opportunity on a regular basis. And then, of course, your returning starters, guys that maybe you're counting on, what did they accomplish over the summer, and how is that going to be able to be implemented with our team. So we felt our fall was successful. I think probably most college coaches would always say that, to be quite honest. A big thing for us, we had some guys who were injured as underclassmen a year ago. They're healthy now, and we're going to be counting on them, particularly on the mound. And again, able to implement those guys and implement our new players, if you would, and get a mix of our lineup, get a mix of our rotation, get a mix of our bullpen. That's always a key that you're looking for in your fall season.
Okay. And now we look ahead a little bit to spring. Before we start talking about your recruits, your 2018 class, we look ahead. You guys are heading south in a little bit. Season starting. In terms of what you look for based on what you had last spring and into the fall, what are you looking forward to most about this crew as you head south to play some of the teams early on in the season before you get to the Patriot League?
Bottom line, an opportunity to go out and compete and really demonstrate that. I think we're a better team than we demonstrated last year, quite honestly. We struggled. There were some reasons behind that. Number one, our performance, and I think we're better. I think we proved that in the fall, and now we have to go out and prove that on the field day in, day out. Not going to be easy. We open up at Davidson. Davidson went to a super regional last year, one of the feel-good stories of the college baseball season. Also an inspiration for a lot of schools like us throughout the country, smaller schools, a little bit underfunded, playing the bigger guys, so on and so forth. So that'll be a really strong test. We typically play them every other year. So that'll be a strong opportunity right out of the gate. And then, every team, every weekend, everybody we play is a challenge. There's nobody on our schedule that you're going to show up and have more talent and just beat. You're going to have to go out and win the game.
But again, one more question before we get into your recruiting class. But you have to be optimistic. You lost, I think, 4 players from last season. So you have your recruiting class coming in from last year into this year, the freshmen. You have almost every, except for first base, I think you're returning almost every starter you have. So there has to be a level of optimism working into this season, especially the way you ended last spring into the fall. You ended last spring pretty strong with the Patriot League and with some non-league games.
100% optimistic. It's always a little bit of guarded optimism, quite honestly, because you have to go out and prove it. And that's baseball. It's what you do every single day. It's not play one game, wait a week, go play another game. It always stares you in the face, and you got to rise up to that challenge. Otherwise, it's going to bite you in the rear end. But we return 8 players in our lineup. We led the league in hitting last year, so that's encouraging. We need to play better defense. We need to pitch it better. Yeah. And we have some guys who we think can help us that did not pitch last year. A couple guys who were injured. A guy who was redshirted, transfer situation we think can help us out. Obviously, our new players are going to factor into that as well. And then also last year we had some young guys that pitched quite a bit that, quite honestly, maybe we're not ready to pitch as much as they did, and we struggled because of that. But I think they gained really, really valuable experience in terms of how to compete at the Division I level, how to pace themselves, how to prepare, and we're going to bank on that really paying some dividends for those guys this year.
Okay. Let's talk about your class, your 2018 class. Now, you have to remember, these are seniors still in high school. These aren't guys who are coming on, and we're not going to see these guys in a month, in a couple of weeks, into the spring. But these are guys that, you might want to start keeping an eye out for, an ear out for. And I imagine overall, let's talk about the overall class first. What were you looking to fill? What kind of players are you generally looking for? Is it the same every year? You have to have some pitchers. You got to have some guys who can, come out of the bullpen. You got to have some guys who can play in the field. Or was there something specific you were looking for in this 2018 class?
There's a lot of similarities every year. You're going to bring in probably 4 pitchers in every class, give or take. 3 or 4. You're going to bring in a middle infielder, you're going to bring in an outfielder, you're going to bring in a catcher. And then other players depend on maybe what you're losing to graduation. So similarities, and then you might add a player or two depending, again, what your particular situation is that given year. So the numbers roughly are going to be 8 to 10 a year, and you do the math over 4 years, that puts us around 35, which is a Division I roster maximum. For this group, we graduate 10 players this coming spring. 7 of those are position players, 3 of those are pitchers. So to sort of match that number was a goal, if you would, going in. And currently we're at 3 pitchers coming in, 6 position players. We still may add a guy, as we go through the regular recruiting period into the regular signing period in April. We'll see how that kind of plays out with admission standards and things like that.
So let's talk about your first player. We'll start off with a position player, Justin Johnson, 5'11", 165-pound infielder from New Jersey, 3-year varsity letterman. He's going to be 4 years, obviously. He's only played 3 years so far. Tell me about him.
Very bright young man, very talented student, and I think just summarizing the entire group, probably the piece that I'm most proud about with the young men that we have coming in, their academic abilities are really, quite honestly, incredible. We have 3 Marquis Scholars. The metrics we use with our admissions process are as high as I've ever experienced. And that's a testament, one, to the people that we're talking to. It's a testament to Lafayette. I think that people are attracted to a school that can offer a really tremendous educational experience. And this group is just remarkable in terms of their academic abilities. Justin's a middle infielder, plays shortstop, a school right down the road, about 20 minutes away, North Hunterdon High School. Just a little interesting backstory. His mom's a Lafayette grad, worked here. I've known Justin probably since he was 3 years old. He attended my camp when he was maybe 5. He was a tiny, tiny guy. And really as early as recently as his freshman year, he might have been 5'5", 130. And physically was not quite there yet, but had a lot of actions and know-how. His, I think, baseball IQ was really, really high. Probably the best compliment I've heard about Justin is from his summer coach, who said he is the most Dominican-like shortstop that I've seen.
Okay.
And for a Caucasian young man from Hunterdon County, New Jersey,
yeah.
That's a really, really good compliment if you're a high school, college baseball middle infielder.
Okay. Now, you mentioned, this is Lafayette. All these kids have good grades. All these kids are smart kids, or they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be allowed to be the student athlete that they're going to be at Lafayette. And I think Dylan Mangini is an example of that, 6'1", 190, but he's got a 4.0 GPA in addition to the baseball acumen I'm sure that he brings to this team.
Well, as I mentioned, they're all good students, and again, the metrics that we use, that some of it's based on Patriot League, some of it's based on Lafayette admission standards, the highest I've ever experienced, and the entire group, top to bottom, are strong students. Dylan's an outstanding young man from an area that we haven't typically gotten a lot of players from before.
Yeah, we have a Georgia guy. Right?
Georgia, and not Atlanta. Atlanta, we're going to get a decent amount of interest. He's from North Georgia, almost on the Tennessee line, a town called Chickamauga. And he's a young man that parents are engineers, and he is interested in engineering, so that was an initial, I think, connection. Visited early in the recruiting process, and we were able to stay on him remotely, phone calls, video, things like that, and then dedicated a lot of time this summer to seeing him play, and were able to make it work, and he was obviously attracted to Lafayette, I think, for the baseball opportunities and certainly the engineering program.
Batted .520 in the postseason this past year as a state runner-up, so the kid can hit. And also, if you're doing that in the postseason, you're pretty good with pressure, which is always a nice thing.
You certainly hope so. You look at statistics tremendously. Performance in high-caliber situations, so a state playoff, or you're playing a summer game against a team that's got a guy on the mound that's, has some promise, throwing it pretty good. Certainly gives you some indication, but helpful having players that have played on teams that have advanced to state tournament play and deep into state tournament play. And really what you're looking for there is maybe the leadership capabilities that those players bring to the table. And I have a couple guys on my team right now that also do that. He also plays a really important position. We graduate 3 catchers this year, kind of a unique situation. And he's going to be in an opportunity to compete as a freshman just like anybody else, and see what he can do and see how that plays out. Okay.
Move on down the line. We'll do your first arm here. Frank Raska, one of the bigger guys. You have a couple of guys here who are big guys. This guy's 6'3", 220 from Pennsylvania, a right-handed pitcher. Tell me about him.
Frank's from the Pittsburgh part of the state, Mars, and
which is just north of Pittsburgh.
Just north of Pittsburgh, and his high school coach is a gentleman by the name of Andy Bednar. Andy's son David played for me and has not graduated yet. He's in the process of doing that, but was drafted by the Padres 2 years ago. So he's been a nice connection for us in the western part of the state, as part of the state that has really, really good baseball. We're not going to see those guys on a regular basis as much as we might on the East Coast or eastern part of the state, or in New Jersey, where we get a lot of interest from. So Andy's been a big help in just pointing out guys who he thinks can play, but also have the academic abilities because he knows about Lafayette through his son. So Frank's a young man who had a really good year as a junior. Mars went to the state playoffs for the first time in quite a while, and he was one of their top pitchers, and will be this year. They should be primed to be a pretty strong team in their district this year. I believe two of their top pitchers, Frank and another guy, are back. So we're looking for big things for him this year, and then obviously as that builds through the summer, and then when he gets here.
Okay, and he's got the bloodline. He's a D1. His brother was a D1 commit, and his dad also played baseball at Pitt, so he knows the game pretty well. I'm sure he grew up with it.
He does. His brother, I think, is younger, just committed to Virginia Tech.
Yeah, 1 year younger, or 2 years younger. I'm sorry.
And
he's in 2020.
his father did play college baseball, which it's not something you go out looking for, but if you have that opportunity, it helps in terms of the young man understanding maybe what the process is about, even though 20 years ago was a little bit different than to now in terms of how the game's played and rules and all those things. Still just the diligence of what you have to do on a regular basis, the balancing of the academics and athletics. I believe his dad was a pitcher as well, so that kind of helps for Frank's development, I think.
Okay. Another big guy. We'll move on to Nick Morano, 6'3", 220, an outfielder out of Westchester, PA. A big stick, I believe, with this guy.
He is, and interesting with him, he was selected, and I'm not sure how the selection process takes place, but he was selected for the Power Showcase, which essentially is a national home run derby.
And they go down south for that, right?
And it was just held at Marlins Park on December 26th, right after Christmas. So Nick was the Pennsylvania representative, and they had representatives, I believe, from most states throughout the country. A difficult time of the year for baseball, particularly if you're from Pennsylvania.
Right.
So Nick was doing a lot of different things to kind of stay in shape. And they have a couple home run derbies with wood, and then they use an aluminum bat, and then they use the old aluminum bats, and then I believe they play a game. So that was kind of a neat accolade for him, opportunity for him to go down and compete in a really unique setting and a unique environment.
And I know he went deep in that. So to go deep in that park, that's a pretty big accomplishment.
He did.
Something you remember. You have to go grab the ball.
It's BP, so
but still, it's very nice to see it go over the,
that's a good thing. But he's a corner outfielder. Might be able to play a little first base. Profiles as a corner outfielder with his size. He moves fairly well for his size. Does have a chance to obviously drive the ball, which, you don't look at pure power. You look at opportunity to maybe develop strength as a hitter in the recruiting process with certain guys. He's certainly one of those guys.
Okay. Now, I know with Wansky graduating last year, we'll go to our first baseman, outfielder, too. Evan Kaya, 6'2", a 200-pound player out of Illinois. So we have a Georgia guy. A lot of your guys, obviously, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, but we mentioned a Georgia guy. Now we have an Illinois guy.
Evan's a young man, very bright, from the North Shore of Chicago. Really good academics in that part of the country. That's a really good recruiting area for us and for a lot of schools in our league, Ivy Leagues, throughout the country. And, it's a place where we'll dedicate some time in the summer, and I'll send an assistant out for a number of events, and we've been able to get a number of players over the years. Evan's an outfielder. Plays first base.
You see him more as an outfielder than a first baseman?
I probably see him more as a corner outfielder. He runs very well, left-handed.
He's a sub 7'0", 60-yard dash guy. He's a 6'9", 60-yard dash guy.
Profiles, again, corner, left or right. But has played some first base, and, flexibility is always an ideal part of any player that you're looking for, because you just never know how things are going to play out.
Okay, and many of these guys, National Honor Society, but we talked about the academics before. So, Ethan O'Connor, another one of your big guys, 6'3", 190, another pitcher, a righty from Sparta, New Jersey.
Yeah, not that far away, about an hour away, Pope John Regional High School. I have a current freshman from that school, so in recruiting that young man, the current freshman is a young man by the name of Hunter Silvernail, who's a catcher in recruiting him, I was able to watch this young man a number of times. And right-handed pitcher, had an injury as a sophomore that sort of slowed his ability to compete on the high school level. Overcame that last year, looks to have a pretty good year this year. So we're looking forward to following him in the spring and then obviously getting him here next fall.
Okay. Another pitcher, Kyle Subers, 6'2", right-hander from Somerset, New Jersey, 5'2" last year. And this is a guy who throws in the high 80s. He's got a pretty nice fastball. As a junior, was throwing in the high 80s.
Also from a Catholic school in New Jersey, St. Joe's and Metuchen. You know, one thing you look at, it doesn't always play out like this, but if you can recruit young men from sort of accomplished high school programs, that's an ideal situation. Okay. Sometimes it doesn't play out, but guys that are playing in state playoffs, playing against some of the better competition in the state, and Pope John certainly, North Hunterdon in New Jersey, and St. Joe's and Metuchen certainly fits that bill in terms of the level of baseball that they're playing. Kyle's a right-handed pitcher that, again, that team will be in the mix for state tournament titles and things like that, and we're looking forward to following him this spring. And, the one thing, you want guys to get here, but you want them to enjoy their high school experience and compete and learn and ideally win, but also lose because you're learning from losing as well. And then they have that level of development so when they get here, they've kind of experienced everything, and hopefully they're in a little bit better position to adjust to what we're going to be doing.
And he's not the only one, but I thought I would mention he's going to be a captain of his team this year. A lot of your guys are going to be captains their senior year.
They are.
But you talk about academics.
I know some have been announced as captains. Some might still be to be announced.
A couple weeks away from hearing that from their coach. Okay. Ryan Dornio, 5'10", 195-pound first baseman, outfielder. He's a lefty, obviously, from Springfield, New Jersey. Another, by the way, captain to be of his high school team.
Also a really good high school program, St. Peter's Prep. Also a very good academic school. Ryan, I think, travels 40-some-odd minutes to get to school. He lives in Springfield, New Jersey, and commutes to Jersey City, which is east. So anybody who lives in New Jersey, you travel east. You're going towards New York. It's interesting.
And the shore, too, at that time, so it's not easy.
He's sacrificing to go to a good school.
Right.
Ryan can hit. What attracted us to him, one, left-handed. Two, we've seen him hit foul line to foul line, and that's something that not a lot of guys really demonstrate, particularly at a younger level. We're excited about what he can do. He plays first base. He's athletic for his size, I think, and he might have an opportunity to be in the outfield as well, but he's a guy that can swing the bat, and we're looking forward to getting him in the batting cage and showing us what he can do on a regular basis.
Okay. And he speaks 3 languages, by the way. Just a little footnote on him. Obviously, English, Latin out of all languages, and speaks Spanish. So he's a well-rounded
very
guy.
multicultural background, too. I think his
yes.
father's from Malaysia and his mother's from the Philippines.
That's excellent.
So very unique background.
Okay.
It's exciting.
And last but not least, on your list of 9 so far, again, you talked about the idea of possibly picking up 1 or 2 more, but in your signing period so far, a guy with, I think, the best name is Zach Savage, which is a fabulous name, 5'11", 165-pounder. And this guy is interesting, I think, from Lewis, Delaware, because he can play a lot of different positions for you. I'd like to hear where you think he might fit in, because he has played catcher, he plays infield, and he plays outfield, and there's not too many other positions left on the field when you deal with all of those.
Well, he's an athletic young man. He played football. He was a quarterback, slot back, defensive back, kick returner on the football field. So, right away there's some athleticism. That's certainly what drew Zach to us initially. And Dylan McGeaney was a catcher, primary catcher only type player. We graduate 3, as I indicated, so we wanted to ideally get somebody who could also catch, but not just be locked in as a catcher. So Zach's a guy that could play third base, maybe second base, left field, and it could even evolve from there. Left-handed hitter also, which is nice to have that balance left and right. Also, his catching, he catches predominantly in high school, and in the summertime he's playing a lot of different positions. His high school baseball team has 3 pitchers who are Division I pitchers. Okay. So he's catching a fairly high level of pitcher in high school, so he's a lot of experience there. And again, has the ability to go third, has the ability to play left, and that's going to open up even more opportunities on the field.
What do you want from these guys now? Again, this is not like soccer, like a fall sport, where you're going to see them in 8 months, let's say. You still have basically, you're going to see them in 8 months in terms of them coming on campus, but they're still a year away from playing a meaningful game at Lafayette, possibly, or so. What do you want to see from this group? Because this wraps it up with Zach so far, Zach Savage. This is your group of 9 right now. Again, you're looking at picking up 1 or 2 more to fill out your recruiting class. But what are you looking for these guys in the next 6 to 8 months before they even step foot on campus, and a year before they step foot on K-Mine?
Well, they still have some big events coming up in their life. Obviously, their high school senior baseball season, which
is a big deal.
That's a pretty big deal if you play.
A lot of these guys are captains, and
if you play baseball, they want to certainly win. They want to do well. Going out and hitting 380 versus hitting 320, we don't really care about that. Really, hopefully, they're putting themselves in a position to learn on a regular basis, get better day by day, help their team win. Certainly, the team aspect is huge. That gets a little bit lost in translation in this day and age, particularly how the summer goes. They're going to play in the summer. Probably maybe not as much as they have in the past with the travel and all
the showcases that they don't have to do anymore.
They don't have to do that. So some will play in maybe a men's league. Some of the guys may play Legion, depending. It's a lot depends on where they live. The one thing we try to tell them in the summer, obviously we want them to play, but we want them to kind of get involved with some of our weightlifting programs and things like that. But at the same point, be a high school graduate. Go to the beach, do whatever you're going to do, have fun, because now you're going to be going to college in August, and, the stakes are a little higher. The academics are certainly going to be a little more demanding. You're living away from home and all those kinds of things, so enjoy all that. So go through the natural processes of life, enjoy those as best that you can, continue to develop yourself as a person, which is physical, mental, and everything in between. And then ideally you get here open-minded, yet the diligence and the responsibility, which I think they have, it's something you certainly try to identify in the recruiting process to adjust to a highly competitive academic setting and also a demanding Division I baseball program.
All right. Well, congratulations on your class. It sounds real exciting, and good luck on your season, your upcoming season.
Thank you, Matt. I look forward to seeing you in spring.
Sounds good. All right. Along with head coach Joe Kinney, I'm Matt Fine on GoLeopards.com for everything Lafayette sports. Continue to check us out, and we'll see you here soon.